On the show today, our first what the fuck moment of the offseason, or I don't even know if it's the first one. Ace Bailey decides to cancel his visit with the Philadelphia 76ers and his workout, and now appears to be sliding down people's boards. Speaking of boards, we'll go through some of our old big boards hits and misses. TJ McConnell looks like maybe he's on the verge of winning Finals MVP. And Sam Esfandiari from the Light Years podcast comes to us to talk to us about how he knew Jared McCain was going to be good. And the Warriors actually did something the Sixers are, I guess, attempting to do, having a gap year and sort of a two timelines thing, and then go win a championship. Fair to mention they had won several championships before, actually. Well, I'm just putting it out there. The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook by using promo code RTRS. And brought to you by Briggs Auction, the official auction of the process at briggsauction.com. Barker Therapeutic Dog Beds. Get yours at barkerbeds.com/Ricky. And Surfside Iced Tea and Vodka, the official sponsor of the Corner 3 newsletter with Zoe. And if not, pick will convey as 2 second rounders with AU. Drinksurfside.com. Speaking of Surfside, it is a sweltering weekend here in the Delaware Valley. Sweltering. It's supposed to go up to like 93 tomorrow. Now, I think I'm actually a heat guy now. I used to be a cold guy. Now I'm a heat guy. Sitting out on the deck, like, I don't know, 6, 7 o'clock tonight, turn on the fills, crack open a couple of Surfsides. We actually have a cornhole game here at home. Make my wife play so I can beat her again. Surfside, amazing compliment to all that, no matter what flavor you like, whether you like the iced tea and vodka, the iced tea lemonade and vodka, perhaps the green tea and vodka, which we now have in the house, the raspberry tea, the peach tea. It's all got 2 grams of sugar. It all tastes great. It's all lightly sweet, only 100 calories, and no carbonation because iced tea shouldn't have bubbles. Drinksurfside.com is the website. Got to be 21. Please enjoy it responsibly. Without any further ado, Amos and the chef.
We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We was right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We were right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. Say the name.
Welcome to the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. I'm Spike Eskin, along with a guy who canceled his meeting with the Sixers long ago. Smartly. That is one Mike Levin.
Yeah. I just think that if I met with the Sixers, rest assured, I'm missing all my shots.
Yeah.
I'm missing every one of them.
Pulling a false, will you? So Ace Bailey was scheduled to meet with the Sixers on Thursday, and as the reporting came out or whatever, they already had the hotels booked, the dinner reservations done, and then he was going to work out on Friday, and he canceled that workout on Wednesday, I think. I don't think there was any reason given, and Ace Bailey now has not met with any team in the lottery and has not worked out with any team in the lottery. First of all, officially, what the fuck moment, I think. At least it's half of one, right?
This is just him, man. I mean, I think he seems to be like, I don't want to like take his agency away, but it's like, who is advising him? What is he trying to do? It seems bizarre to not like just play the game, to not just like go and do a workout for several teams and go like, whoever's going to take me is going to take me.
Maybe to be clear, Cooper Flag just worked out for the Mavericks.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like
it happens. You want to, or at least like go meet with them, at least have a dinner with them. Say you're like, oh, my ankle's tweaked and I don't want to play below par because I'm not like healthy. So I'll just have like a dinner. Like the reservation was already set.
Yeah.
The flight was set. It's just a very weird thing to like try to alienate teams so far. let's be clear. So he's probably either got a promise from one of the 6 to 8 teams, or he's trying to get to one of the 6 to 8 teams. Trying to get a promise,
yeah, or trying to get to one of those teams.
Yeah, trying to become available. I just think like let's be very clear about it, and this is like undeniably true. If he was the guy that Daryl wanted at 3,
he would take him.
He would take him.
Yeah,
Ace could say horrible things to Daryl, about Daryl's family and belief system. Doesn't matter. Yeah. If Daryl thought he was the guy to take at 3, he would take him. So this I think has almost no impact on whether or not the Sixers take him, but I do think it could have impact in whether or not someone trades up for him. So it's a bummer in that respect.
I think it has a small impact on whether or not the Sixers take him, in that I think a meeting can either enhance something that you already believe about somebody in a positive way or enhance them in a negative way. I do agree that if they were 100% sure that he's the guy, like the player, based on what they had already seen, this would have no effect. I think Okafor did not work out for the Sixers, and they took him anyway, if I remember correctly. I don't think Jahlil Okafor worked out for the Sixers. So I don't think it matters. I would say this, it is adding to the... I know there seems to be a wave of information that the Sixers are just going to sit at 3 and take Edgecombe, but like it actually makes everything feels very blurry to me. I could see them sitting there and taking him, and maybe they liked him all along. I could see them sitting there and taking him and sort of like holding him for ransom because they believe that there's 1 or 2 teams that actually want him. I could see them just taking Edgecombe. Like there's I'm pretty, I don't know where you're, like, I'm pretty split on what I think is going to happen, and that I don't really have any sort of gut as to anything that's going to happen.
Yeah, it's an interesting spot. The Sixers have been coy the entire time.
Yeah.
I would say like they or people around them are putting out different slop to muddy the waters, to fog it up.
Yeah.
And if they stay at 3, they are either taking VJ Edgecombe or Trey Johnson.
You think?
I feel very, very confident that if they stay at 3, that's what's going to happen.
What if they traded back to 6 and took Ace Bailey?
If they that could happen. If they trade down, I don't think they're trading down past like probably 6 or 7.
Yeah.
Maybe 8. Maybe 8 to Brooklyn. But even if they trade down to 8, if they did that, I think they would make the pick at 3, be like, this is the guy we believe in. And then if the guy that they think is just as good is available at 8, then they could make that pick. But we could be living in a world for like, a half hour
where we think whoever they take at 3 is the guy that they're going to end
exactly.
up with.
And then the trade is announced. I think that's possible. But yeah, it would be ballsy if Daryl took Ace at 3 thinking, so I've wanted them to trade down this whole time. I've wanted them to trade down into the like 5, 6, 7, 8 range, because I don't think that there's one prospect that stands out there. And I think the Sixers need more help, more assets. Like there's a lot of options. I have a couple here that I'd like to, I talked about the players in the like Herb Jones thing. I've talked about that before. Cam Johnson, Tariq, and Tumani Kamara, whatever, those kinds of things. But I think just straight up picks, trading down even one spot to Charlotte and getting an extra first. If Charlotte really believes that VJ Edgecombe is the guy, and the Sixers can hold that hostage so that they pick up a first rounder in next year's draft where they have no picks, or trading down to Utah and getting like the Wolves 2026 first round pick, or to Washington for pick 18 as well as 6. Like there's those options. Sixers Adam loves traded down to Brooklyn to get our 2028 first round pick back to then have more autonomy. I like a lot of those things. I think what happened or is happening is the Sixers got 3 in a 2-player draft, and they have been trying to hope other teams would come calling.
Yeah.
And it doesn't behoove those teams or the Sixers. Like who makes the first call is very important in that scenario, right?
You hope they make the first call.
The Sixers are dying for somebody else to call. They're looking at the phone. Yeah,
well, in any negotiation, by the way, just with money, you want the other person to give the number first. You always want the other person to give the number first.
And I know this. I'm a big business guy, so obviously I'm never giving numbers.
Well, I mean, the reason is because they could be like, all right, let's say I want to sell something to you, and we don't know the price. What you are thinking could be a lot higher than what I'm thinking. Sure. So the reason that I want you to give the number first is so I don't miss out on an opportunity to get something more than I thought I was going to get.
Of course.
Right.
And these are all happening a lot of times from like, lower, maybe it's not like Daryl calling somebody else, but maybe it's like a couple rungs down, be like, hey, call your friend who is also the like junior coordinator or whatever the fuck title it is. So I don't think that those calls happened yet. The consensus around the league, and you hear about it on podcasts and stuff, seems to be, it's just a 2-player draft and everything else is like a pick your favorite. There's several, I'm sure boards are different, but like probably nobody has anybody that much higher than anybody else from 3 on down. And part of this is confirming my priors, but part of this is just like sort of knowing how different evaluations can be.
There's no way somebody doesn't love somebody.
That's exactly how I feel. Yeah. Is that like there's a groupthink in the media, in draft culture, in all that stuff, that I don't think there is across the board from team to team. And so you're just hoping that Charlotte, Utah, Washington, New Orleans, Brooklyn, who are all varying levels of very disappointed that they did not get a higher pick in this draft, is a little bit on tilt and a little bit like, this is our chance to get a really good player that we think is head and shoulders above anybody else that we could get there. And we need to trade a pick or asset or something or a player to get that player. And I just need Daryl to capitalize on that. I think if they stuck at 3 and took Trey Johnson or VJ Edgecombe, I don't think it would be a bad outcome. I would be disappointed in how I don't think that they are maximizing this opportunity, is what I would say. Sure. So I would prefer that they trade down and get some other stuff, but not too far down, just within the top 8, because I don't think they're going to trade out of the draft entirely. I think that's not happening. Or trading up to 2 to get Harper if that's real, and who knows if it's real.
And just as a side note, here is Ace Bailey in a New York Mets uniform. There he is. As he is throwing out the first pitch.
Okay, so he worked out for the Mets. That's ridiculous.
There you go. There is just doing his best to not get to Philly. Ace Bailey in a Mets uniform.
I'd say like if they can swindle the Hornets, if Hornets love VJ Edgecombe and the Sixers have Trey Johnson over him, trading 3 to Charlotte for 4, they have the 34th pick in the draft. Charlotte does. So 4, 34, and they have a late first rounder that's not theirs in next year's draft. If they can get that just for moving down 1 spot.
If they have Trey Johnson over VJ Edgecombe.
The Sixers.
Yeah.
And then you can take 34 and the Sixers have 35 and then package those together to get back into the 20s somewhere where there's like, I love 35 regularly. It's because of how many kids stayed in school because of NIL. It's just not as good of a spot as it usually is. Usually I have like 10 guys I would love there. Now I'm like praying a couple of them last that long. So if you can get 34 and trade back into the 20s, like that's the perfect spot for me, where you get somebody in the 20s that you really, really believe in. There's a number of guys I like, Nick Clifford, Colin Murray-Boyles if he falls. I don't think it's gonna fall that far, but some mocks have him falling until like the early 20s. And then a pick, to me, very important to get a pick in next year's draft if you can do it, because they have nothing. They have nothing, and that would be such an asset to have going forward. That would open things up a lot. If they
it allows them, if they have a first round pick, it allows them other trades because they have a pick in next year's draft.
Exactly.
The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is brought to you by Briggs Auction, the official auction of the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. saying, why do you have an official auction place? Well, because Briggs Auction is incredible. It's online auctions, even though it is a family-owned business right there in Delco. Every week, great auctions, hundreds of lots, many of them starting at $1, from art to collectibles to furniture that you're not going to see anywhere else. One-of-a-kind items. The cars, there's 2 cars in the current option. And what I love to say about Briggs Auction, and you can download the app in the App Store or Google Play, or just go to briggsauction.com every week and check in, is that it's full of shit that you didn't know you needed until you saw it. Here is CJ with his Briggs Auction item of the week.
CJ.
So I'm scrolling this morning and I'm looking and I see this set of 3 jackets, these 3 windbreakers. And at first I see the green and the red. I'm thinking, oh, it's probably some vintage Phillies, Eagles jackets. And I look further. It's Mountjoy, Pennsylvania.
Oh my God.
Moo Mau Tire. Not familiar with the shop.
In Mountjoy, PA.
Yep.
Wow.
You can hold that hostage. The band would give you some pretty penny for that, I think.
It doesn't have it branded on the green one, but both of the red jackets have Mountjoy, PA on the back. Wow. And I think that is sick.
Oh, wow. That is incredible. You gotta send that to Matt. Well, no, don't tell him about it. Like Mike said, buy it and then hold it hostage.
Yeah, hold us hostage. This is what the Sixers should do at 3.
Yes. This is the Ace Bailey or the VJ Edgecombe of this Briggs Auction. If you win a lot in a Briggs Auction thing, it's very easy to go get it. They have open pickup on Saturdays, which is the day we're recording this podcast, or you can make an appointment during the week. They can work with you on a shipper. If you want to sell a bunch of stuff, if you have stuff of value that you want to auction somewhere, the place you got to go to do it is Briggs Auction. Just send an email to info@briggsauction.com. That is Briggs Auction, the official auction of the process. Since we are in draft time, we've had a few requests to go back and find some of our hits and misses from previous drafts, of which everyone has them, even pro draft guys, our Kyle Mann has them. Kevin O'Connor has them. Actual guys who draft people have them. So CJ went back into the archives. What did you find, CJ?
Yeah, so here at the research department of the Rights to Ricky Sanchez, we did some investigative journalism into. So I have 2015 to 2022.
Okay.
And I have all of both of yours top 10-ish, but instead of just going through all of them, I have some hits and some misses.
Some hits and misses. That's all that's important. This is CJ Coyle finds out.
Yes.
And some extras, some goodies here and there from I'm going to start with 2015. I couldn't find it listed anywhere, so I had to listen to the podcast and hearing this
I don't have the
capsule,
doc of that one. Yeah.
How did we sound?
It was nice to some notes on the pod. It was a phone podcast. You were talking on there.
Yeah.
The intro song was played doubled over through a phone and then also on the MP3. It was playing twice for some reason.
Wow.
Okay.
Mike, you curse at some point, and Spike, you call him out to not curse because you're trying to do a clean initiative of no.
We've had a clean initiative.
Yeah, we've had a few of those.
It was prohibition.
It never works. It never works.
And then at the end of the pod, Mike, you do say "I love you" to Spike, and Spike does not say it back.
Wow.
This is 2015.
Brutal.
But so for Spike's list, you only had 2 guys: Mario Hezonja, number 1, and D'Angelo Russell, number 2.
That's such funny to have a 2-person big board.
Well, it's funny. I actually, remembering back, that was the first YouTube big board I ever did, and I actually did one on Liberty Ballers because I think Mario Hezonja was the first YouTube guy I ever liked was Hezonja. So that's interesting. Okay.
And then for Mike, you had Karl Anthony Towns 1, D'Angelo Russell. You also had Mario Hezonja at 3.
I did.
There we go.
It was a pretty standard list. A notable quote that you had at the end was, Devin Booker has 1 skill. He can shoot, and that's it. He's bad at everything else. And then you compare him to Jody Meeks.
Woo! That's a miss.
that one's
That's a miss, you guys.
Yeah. But you didn't like Devin Booker because
I didn't.
There was the moment where I asked if you would trade Okafor for Devin Booker. And
I didn't like him in the draft. That was me because you did that mid-season and Booker was having a nice rookie year.
It was right on. He was in the 3-point competition, I believe, is where I started watching it.
That was definitely me still holding on to my draft evaluation of him when I should have been that's obviously he's good and I should have done it. exercise is way more embarrassing for me than it is for Spike. Let's be clear.
It doesn't matter. If you go through, here's my point to you, is if you go through
everybody's wrong for sure.
Yes. Yeah.
But when you're wrong, putting very little effort into it.
I put effort into it.
Whatever.
Just not. Well, my whole point on all of this, the whole point of the YouTube Big Board in general, is that it is almost impossible to be good at a draft guy. So somebody almost like the person in the office who doesn't know anything about has never watched a college basketball game wins the pool or whatever.
Yeah. So you feel like you've been winning your draft evaluations?
No, I just feel like yes, by doing it that way, just by not even So all right.
You also, at the end of this, plug a short film that you had just recently.
Oh, is this the one where you're on the beach?
Mike, do you remember Soda?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's my buddy John.
I remember this.
Do you mind if we play a short snippet?
Sure. It's been a long time. My buddy John wrote and directed a short film, asked me to be in it, and then I did it. Me and Alyssa had pretty recently started dating, and I was like, okay, I gotta kiss this girl on the beach. And she's like, "You're not an actor. What is this? Is this what it's going to be like?" And that's it.
I can't keep pretending that I don't have doubts.
Okay, fine. So what exactly is this? I want you to say it out loud. I want you to man up for once and explain to me exactly what it is about this that you don't believe in. I feel like I deserve that.
I just don't think that tanking is the best way for the Sixers to win a championship. I don't. It's an embarrassment to the fans. It's a disgrace to the league.
Oh my God, watching the Sixers for the past decade is a disgrace. Okay, at least what Hickey has is actually a plan.
A plan. Losing games on purpose. Sarah, it's a Ponzi scheme.
You don't know what a Ponzi scheme is.
No, I mean,
you don't know what a Ponzi scheme is.
I know generally what a Ponzi scheme is. It's like bad. It's
I feel
bad.
like you don't know what a Ponzi scheme is.
Whatever it is,
I feel
it's
like
bad.
you don't know.
But do we have to have a nerd GM who only cares about numbers and spreadsheets and analytics and about stuff that I don't even understand?
Also, here we are 10 years later, Mike still doesn't actually know what a Ponzi scheme is, right? I mean, that's one thing.
I'm running a few, I think.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the next one.
Yeah, so the next few drafts are less intensive. Number 1, 2016, both of you have Ben Simmons. No surprise there. Spike, you're 2, 3, and 4. You had Marquise Chris.
I was a big Marquise Chris guy. Dragon Bender. Okay.
Yep. And Denzel Valentine.
Ooh,
okay.
I was a big Denzel guy. This is the kind of guy I mentioned, like Colby Jones last week. But those kinds of guys, he's ready made, he's ready to go, he just does everything. Nick Clifford is an example of this. And you're like, he's just going to fit in there right now and just be a good player. And Denzel Valentine was just like, no, I'm not. I am not an NBA athlete, and I don't have enough NBA shooting skills.
At 5, Spike, you did have Furkan Korkmaz, and your notes on him were he's bouncy as hell.
There it is.
Well, this is when I stopped trusting. I mentioned this in the last pod. YouTube. He won the dunk contest in overseas. It was insane. I think we both had Furk and TLC rather high.
Mm-hmm. I definitely.
Mike did not have Furk on his top 10, but you did have TLC at 4. Mm-hmm. You had Bender and Wade Baldwin at 5.
Oh, I loved Wade Baldwin, dude. I fucking loved Wade Baldwin.
You had Jamal Murray.
Pat still makes my writing partner still gets mad at me for how much I liked Wade Baldwin.
Jamal Murray at 7, which was a good pick out of this top 10. And then an Isaiah Cordonier.
Isaiah Cordonier, French guard, very similar to Korkmaz, honestly.
Never
came over, played for the Hawks for like a second, maybe. But
I think he was drafted, but I don't know if he ever
played some summer league, I think. But not. It's something in the air in those French leagues. You're like, it just moves differently.
2017 was another pretty safe year. You both had Markelle Fultz 1. You both had Dennis Smith Jr. at 2.
Yeah, I was a big Dennis Smith guy.
Yeah, I loved him. And spiritually, I had Dennis Smith Jr. at 1.
You did not have Jason Tatum on your top 10, Spike. Mike, you had him at 11, right outside.
Yeah. Wrong about Tatum for sure.
Yep.
Wrong about Tatum. Wrong about Devin Booker. Those are some misses.
Yeah.
2018 was a pretty good, famous one. Spike, you had Michael Porter Jr. at number 1. Your notes on him. This is when you start to get a little more in depth with your list. Looks too much like a Ball brother. That bothers me. Good jumper, good shooter, fast as shit, good dunker, A++++.
Yeah. Now, at the time, this was like pre-back injury Michael Porter Jr. too, who lost a lot of his athleticism, which Mike tried to tell me about, but I wasn't having it. And he does look a little too much like a Ball brother.
You had SGA number 3, obviously a good one. And yeah, the rest of the list is pretty standard. You didn't have Luka on. You didn't rank him at all.
Too fat.
You said pretty slow, also fat.
Yep.
Mike, you had Luka number 1, you had Shea number 5, and you had Michael Porter Jr. at 12.
Yeah.
Okay.
2019, Spike, you had Darius Garland number 1.
Okay.
You had Dylan Windler at 3.
Funny.
No longer in the league.
Yeah. Belmont.
Mike, you had Zion Williamson 1. You had Jarrett Culver 2.
Yeah, I love Jarrett Culver, dude. He's such an interesting player, interesting athlete that just like couldn't shoot and couldn't figure it out. And it's like, if it really is like, if you can't play, if you're not fast or athletic or smart enough to play on the ball all the time, then you really got to be able to shoot. And if you can't do that, and you're just like an okay defender, then you're probably not going to make it.
Spike had Ja Morant at 2. Mike, you had him at 6. Pretty low. Compared to other guys. And you had Carson Edwards at 9, who no longer also in the league.
I think I had Carson Edwards pretty high too, if I remember correctly.
You had him at 4.
Yeah.
You
Carson
said
Edwards is the man. It's such a bummer that he did.
Reminded me of Isaiah Cannon, if I remember correctly.
You said stocky like Cannon.
There you go.
Pull up threes on the break.
There you go.
So 2020, tough year. You had Tyrell Terry number 1.
Dude, I love Tyrell Terry. So he retired. He
I don't even remember him.
So he was a point guard at Stanford. He was having like severe like mental health crises, and he like ended up being like, I'm retiring from basketball because it's not good for me. So that's a bummer. But I did love Tyrell Terry. He was such a fun player.
I think he tried to come back at some point, played a few games in the G League, and then went away again.
Yeah. There's a number of like, I'm trying to pick out. There's a number of like, hey, stop falling in love with small guards. There's a number of throughout my draft career, I was like, but I just like how smart he is as a passer, and like he gets a shot off, whatever. But like, if you just got to be top 1.1% to make it as a small guard.
Spike, you had Terry at 1. Mike, you had him at 8. Mike, you had LaMelo Ball at 1.
Who did I have at 1?
Tyrell Terry. Was your number 1 on
oh, wow.
2020?
Well, that's my type. That's my type, though. I don't even remember him.
Yeah, you had Ant Edwards was 2 for you, Spike. Mike had him at 5.
I was low on Ant. I think that was me like not believing that he would be able to get his shot off, not believing that I thought it was just like athlete package that wouldn't actually be a handler, and he's just like so much better, obviously. I don't know. I think I might have just straight up tried to be too smart for my own good, and that was deeply unsuccessful.
Above him, you had Killian Hayes at 3.
Yeah, I got fooled by
famous KOC
Kevin
one
O'Connor.
too.
Got hoodwinked by him. He had a nice rhythm to his game, has a nice pace, good burst, but just like not a good basketball player, straight up.
Then you had Halliburton at 4.
Yeah, I was the high man on Halliburton for sure.
And then you both had Maxey at 7 and 8. Mike, you had him at 7. Spike at 8.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had
that's
Poku.
high considering they went 21.
Yeah. 21. You had Poku at 9. Mike,
fun player, player, dude. I'm not gonna regret that. At 9, I won't be made to regret putting Poku at 9.
And then Spike, just more on Terry. Your notes on him: a bunch of exclamation points. This guy is awesome. Great handle. Great shooter. Great passer.
There you go. Not in the NBA.
Yeah.
Those things could still be true.
They could have been true.
They have to be.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Did you do 28? Did you do 2018?
2018. Yeah, you had Luka, Jaren Jackson Jr., DeAndre, and Mikal Bridges.
That's the Shea draft, right? SGA?
Yeah, Shea at 5.
I think I might have had Mikal Bridges like 2.
You did.
Yeah, I had Bridges right there too, right?
Yeah.
You had Mikal at 4. You had Miles at 6. You had Zaire at 7. Wendell Carter, Marvin Bagley, and Wendell Carter were the tail end, but everyone else panned out.
I was very low on Bagley. I think I ranked Bagley low, but I was like, well, I was wrong on Tatum, so I can't rank Bagley so far down. I was like, that was the opposite. But yes, SGA, I was so high on SGA. He's awesome.
Yeah, 2018 draft class is pretty good. I mean,
yeah,
most of these guys are still in the league at regard. Wrapping up 2020, Spike, you had Tyshawn Alexander at 10, who's no longer in the league.
Yeah. Creighton 2-guard.
Okay.
And yeah, that's pretty much it. 2021, Spike, you had Jalen Suggs at 1.
That's fun. That's not really a Spike type guy.
No. Oh, I've evolved over the years.
You said, that's my guy. Reminds me of Dame Lillard. Pulls up from far, has good vision, can jump out of the gym.
Well, yeah, it is what it is. Yep.
And then you had Chris Duarte. Love this guy. Good shooter, good finisher. Seems to play with a lot of passion. Good defender. Don't care how old he is.
Yeah, the don't care how old he is. I mean, Duarte is pretty Nick Cliffordy. If you're drafting him to expect to be something, but yeah, Nick's a better athlete than Duarte and probably plays with a lot more like basketball IQ as a passer.
And then Mike, you had Cade at 1.
Yep.
You had Franz at 7. Cool. Jaden Springer at 8.
I loved Springer.
Yeah, you're a big Springer guy. Still a believer, I'm sure.
Probably.
Yeah, and then pretty much everyone else standard. And then wrapping up 2022, Jeremy Sohan, number 1 for you, Spike.
Love him. Still number 1 for me.
You had Ty Washington at 2.
Very interesting. He was the Kentucky point guard after Maxey.
Oh, right.
You wrote, love this fucking kid. He's like Maxey, but a sick passer and better hops. Looks like he never wants to shoot, so that worries me. But a tight handle, his handle and passing ability makes him faster than he actually is. He is going to be good.
Well, look.
Happens.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing about like, oh, sorry, you keep going. I was going
to go onto your list, but yeah, if you want to talk
No, go for it. Do it.
Okay. 1, you had Tari Eason. 2, Jalen Williams.
I had Tari Eason at 1?
Yeah, Tari Eason at 1, yeah, 2022.
Well, it might have been your Sixers related big board. Yeah.
Some of these you incorporated like very
where the Sixers were
picking. That this is focused on the Sixers, and then others were not.
Yes, I did love Tari for the Sixers. Definitely wouldn't have had him at 1 overall though.
You had EJ Liddell at 3.
Yeah, by the way, wing Jalen Williams, Santa Clara Jalen Williams at 2.
Yeah.
That's very nice. Those are nice. Those are 2. And yes, EJ Liddell's bummer because he got hurt and he just barely has played basketball. He's still an interesting player.
Kendall Brown at 4.
Oh, I mean, bouncy 2-guard from Baylor. I think the Pacers took him, and then he just like buried, and then I think that's just it. It's amazing how fast it happens. It's amazing how fast you just like are gone.
And then a good one, Christian Braun at 6.
Yeah,
there you go.
Christian Braun, good player.
And then Spike, you had pretty normal list. You had Paolo at 9, which was a good one. And then 2023, there were
Paolo Banchero at 9.
Yeah, on Spike's YouTube.
I think that's quite low though.
Well, if you appear on the YouTube, it depends. There's context, right? Like me putting Zion on my YouTube, but only 6 is insulting him. I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't like Paolo.
Spike, you explicitly said like, this is not who I think is the top 10 best players. It's who you like watching the most. So, all
right. Well, we got, go ahead.
2023, there was no pick. So you guys didn't do it. And then 2024, I looked briefly and I also couldn't find anything.
A big board thing.
There was a pod that we did after the McCain pick, which Dan Ellinger was on. And then like the weeks leading up to it, there was no big board. So
yeah, I think I was working too much to like have an opinion at that point.
That sounds about right. A lot of different eras through the years.
That's what a little journey you just went on.
What a journey. A bunch of names I don't remember.
The biggest miss is being wrong on Tatum for me, obviously. Right. And then you go like, okay, how do I correct for that? People want Ace Bailey to be like that. And you just look at his college stats and it's just like, that's just not the case.
Same guy.
Tatum was so much better than Ace was. Like, look, the like high usage, supremely low assist rate for Ace Bailey is just indicative of someone that like is not going to be anywhere close to a star player.
Before we get to our buddy Sam, the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is brought to you by Barker Dog Beds. No longer Big Barker. It's Barker, but still big in your heart. A Barker dog bed is an investment in your dog's health and happiness. That's what it is. You've adopted the dog. Now you've taken on the responsibility of making sure your dog is happy and healthy. Your dog can't shop on the internet for beds. it leaves it up to you. So that's why you got to get a Barker bed. Go to barkerbeds.com/Ricky. You get your Barker bed for your dog. You get the process pup patches. You send us photos. We put them on Instagram, official process pup. But even more importantly than the free shit that you get, it is that your dog is going to live a healthier life. Barker dog beds are engineered in a way that they're actual beds. They're supportive mattresses as opposed to just like a fluffy thing that you picked up for $30 at the pet store. Those fluffy things look comfortable, but the truth is when your dog is sleeping for however many hours like you are, you need your joints supported. And if you don't, you feel worse. Could your dog vocalize that it feels worse? No, it doesn't know the difference. You know the difference. Get the Barker dog bed. barkerbeds.com/Ricky. And used to be Big Barker. One of the changes is because it's not just for big dogs. It is for tiny dogs. There's the Barker Jr., all the way up to giant dogs. There's the extra large Barker. Comes in all different configurations, all different colors. I see they have like a cooling one now. So like when your dog is sleeping in the summer, it keeps them cool. What the fuck? It's amazing. Again, it is an investment in your dog's health. It's an investment in your dog's happiness, and that is your job. There's a 10-year warranty. The foam doesn't flatten or they replace it for free. It is handmade in the USA. Barker Dog Beds. Joining us now of the Light Years podcast, one Sam Esfandiari. What's up, Sam?
What up, Sam?
Morning, guys. How you guys doing?
Oh, we're doing pretty good, buddy. Doing pretty good.
So I'm going to start it. This is a ridiculous thing that we're trying to do here, because as Spike noted in the intro, the Warriors went to several finals, won 3 of them at least before the bad stretch that we're about to talk about, and also changed basketball as we know it. The Sixers have not.
No.
But there was a time when, after losing to the Raptors, Klay tears his ACL. Next season, Steph breaks his hand a few games in, and he's out for the year. And the Warriors go 15-50 in the COVID-shortened season. So we're thinking this is
same thing, basically.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Essentially the same thing. So that's why we brought you on. You do a great job covering the Warriors. So yeah, I guess congratulations on all the success.
Yeah.
Let's start with that.
So you guys are talking about the two timeline
and gap year. And by the way, just as an aside, and we'll get to this at some point, is that your name was brought up very early after drafting Jared McCain, because you said on Light Years you thought he was going to be better than Maxey, that he's the true Steph disciple.
I'll take a victory lap for that.
Yeah, victory lap on that. We'll get to that eventually. But yeah, gap year and 2 timelines, which is, again, if you squint, as Daryl says, you can see what the Philadelphia 76ers and what they're trying to do. Like, I guess my first question on it is, when the 15-50 season happened, like, we have had the conversation, is this just over now, or do we keep like trudging on, put our head down? Were those conversations happening, or did you guys still know that this was a team that could eventually win a title again?
So definitely some context there, because 15-50 happened, and then we go into the pandemic, and there's really no Warriors from March until December. And I think we all remember during that pandemic period, we all kind of lost our minds at various points. So I personally talked myself into every possible scenario being the one that was going to happen.
Yeah. Late.
But the second thing that undoubtedly changed everything for them was Klay Thompson tore his Achilles on draft night in 2020. So he tore his ACL in 2019 in the finals. And there was this general belief, okay, ACL tear in 2019-20 is not as career ending as it was maybe, 20 years ago. Okay, Steph breaks his hand. They will be fine after this gap year. When Klay tore his Achilles on the backs of an ACL tear, then everything got pretty dark. And there was kind of this, Steph Curry's still Steph Curry, we think, even though we haven't seen him play basketball really in a year at that point, because he missed the entire year. And Klay, you pretty much had zero faith he would ever be a good player again. Yeah. So there was a lot of this collective belief that they should go for these high upside prospects because they're going to need to rebuild. And then what happened was into the next year, Steph Curry had probably his best individual year. Mm-hmm. He went on like a 3-month stretch where he was averaging 40 points per game and just really kind of redefined the direction they should go in. Because when you watched him play at that level, you're like, no, they still have a guy who's still very much good enough to lead a contending team. So we need to shift courses, even though we just picked a raw big man who needs like 2 years of who knows what to figure out if he can even play.
Well, let's get into that. So first of all, I just want to know, can you tell me who led the team in win shares during the 15 and 50 year? How much do you remember this? It's a dark list of no Steph, no Clay.
So Eric Paschall would have been the leading scorer on the team.
He was 4th in win shares.
Okay, so if we're going win share, I don't think Draymond played enough games.
No Draymond.
Was it Kai Bowman?
No, he's not in the top 5. You got 3 former Sixers as 2, 3, 5, but one is
Kelly Oubre there?
No, not that time.
No, he was the following year.
Okay.
It wasn't Willie Cauley-Stein.
He would have been 3rd.
And it couldn't have been. Was it D'Angelo Russell? Because technically they traded him, and then 8 games later, the pandemic hit. So he was on the team for majority of the year.
Yeah, but no, not in the top 5 win shares wise.
Oh God, Glenn Robinson the 3rd.
He was 5th. Yeah, one more Sixer at 2.
There was definitely a period where could he be the Andre Iguodala replacement?
Sure, yeah, we all went there.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't think he's played in the NBA since that season. Who am I forgetting?
2 is Alec Burks.
Oh my God,
former Sixer Alec Burks.
Yeah.
He's spiritually a warrior, by the way. I think in some way he reminds me. There's some Monte Ellis with Alec Burks.
And one is someone that we mentioned earlier in this podcast that is Marquise Chris, number 1 in win share.
Right. Oh my God!
There was that was another one. Yeah, it was. So it's probably very similar to your year where people fall in love with these guys on a last place team where you're like, oh, he could be a piece when we're good again next year. Yeah, and it's like, no, probably not.
Yeah. So you end up with the 2nd pick in the draft. What did you going into the draft want to happen?
Going into the draft, I wanted them to trade the pick because I fundamentally believed that they still had an opportunity to compete. Clay tore his Achilles at 15 minutes before the draft started.
I forgot.
So we actually did a live. Say it again.
I forgot that it was right then. I did not remember that.
It's still on YouTube. We did our first ever live stream for that draft. Like, you have to remember, it was like 9 months of discussing what are they going to do with the pick because there was literally no sports on for the war in the Bay Area. And so we put all our eggs into this live stream. We're really excited about it. And I get a text from someone 15 minutes before it starts. It's like, it's over. And so the entire live stream, I look like I want to kill myself. For about 3 minutes. Yeah, I wanted them to trade the pick. I thought that there was an opportunity because I didn't like any of the top guys. I was wrong on Anthony Edwards, but like James Wiseman just profiled as a bust. Like, never played basketball. Didn't really do well when he did play, but look how big and athletic he is. Like, those guys just never work out.
Yeah, especially that high.
Exactly. And then like LaMelo Ball, like, can you really imagine a scenario where him and Steve Kerr would have worked together particularly well? So
I would have liked to see it. I had LaMelo 1 on my board, but I would have liked to see. I wonder what a world of LaMelo goes to the Steph Warriors and has to like grow up fast. I wonder what that would look like. How his career arc would have changed. Probably not. Because the book right now is that they did try to trade the pick. Oh, they tried so hard to trade. They trade their darndest. And it's like the same thing with the Sixers with Okafor of like, oh, they don't really want him. They drafted him because of a trick. Like they thought they were going to trade him and fool somebody else later. Like you fucked up. Like it was a horrible pick. James Wiseman is like a generationally bad pick for the 2nd overall pick. And they don't. And it seems like process wise, like, once for us, we did a podcast right after the Okafor draft, and we were both like pretty inconsolable. and then eventually like tried to convince ourselves like post
We tried to
are back.
convince ourselves that he could play with Nerlens, by the way.
Yeah, pretty rough.
Yeah.
So did you do the same with Wiseman of convincing yourself?
Of course. I mean, the funny thing about Wiseman is the first, let's call it stretch of 10 games his rookie year, it was like eyebrow raising because he is 7'1" and he moves like a guard and it looks like he can shoot. You know, he made his first 10 threes. Oh, wow. Did we get like the next Embiid? You know, that was literally a talking point that was going around. And then as with all things, you know, the rawness shows itself. Turns out he's not a 40% 3-point shooter. Turns out he can't rebound or defend. But yeah, I mean, they're the flashes. They tantalize everyone. And you want to believe. Yeah. You want to believe that your team didn't just pick like Darko Milicic with the second overall pick.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's interesting. You're not a Kuminga guy, Sam, and they messed up the Wiseman draft, and like they still won a championship anyway. Like,
well, let me get there. There's I want to because you're trying to give us the blueprint right now. I think you need to tell us how to feel and how to realistically approach.
The blueprint is to have Steph Curry.
That's interesting. Would you give him to us, please?
Yeah.
But the season after the Wiseman draft, you go 39-33, no Clay. You miss the playoffs. At that point, are you thinking that this thing is probably over? Maybe some nice moments for the Clay, Steph, Draymond situation eventually, but no more like serious contention. Are you at
complete opposite? Steph led the league in scoring. It's hard to say it was his best season, but in terms of individual output with very little around him, that was probably his best season. I mean, led the league in scoring, and the reason they missed the playoffs was he got knocked out of bounds and broke his tailbone. Mm-hmm. So he missed 5 or 10 games in that span. He came back with this butt pad and averaged 40 points per game for the final like 30 games of the season. It was one of those like heaters where a player's on where you're like, okay, this team sucks, but we're not quitting on this player yet because he's very much as good as he is. So I actually thought there was more pressure in 2021 to trade the picks and go all in because they had the 7 and the 14.
Right.
Steph was playing at as high a level as I've ever seen him play at. Mm-hmm. And it was very clear that if they put another impact player next to him, they could get into the mix because the other teams in the NBA, if you looked around the landscape, like there's a lot of good teams, but there wasn't exactly a juggernaut in that 2020 to 23 era. So that was the sentiment, and that was actually a pretty widespread sentiment, which is why.
So Steph was good enough that it changed the calculus. So you have 7, you take Kuminga, you have 14, you take Moody. Process wise, do you think that those were reasonable picks? Do you think that the team was thinking about the moment appropriately?
No, I don't. It's so they had Kelly Oubre on that team, the 39 and 33 team that lost in the play-in.
Yeah.
And he's a good player. He's not a bad player. This was still during the phase where, you know, people weren't quite sure what he was. There was still like the illusion he could be a borderline all-star, 20 point per game score, whatever you want to say, right? He actually ended up getting benched like Kuminga did in this playoffs because he didn't fit as well. Mm-hmm. Basically, and that's part of the reason they went on a run to finish the season. They benched Oubre because they determined you can't have Oubre, Kent Bazemore, and Andrew Wiggins out there together because that's just
Kent Bazemore. Just always a Sixer. Sorry, yeah. I think we went through probably a year of trade scenarios to get the Sixers Kent Bazemore. But anyway, continue. Sorry.
There was a Kent Bazemore moment.
Yeah,
there was a moment where he was a trendy 3-and-D player.
Yeah, it was Mikal Bridges before Mikal Bridges. Yeah, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so it was pretty. After the season, they're talking about how important fit was. And they ended the season so strong because they prioritized fit over raw talent is the way they put it. Fit matters more than talent when you play around Steph Curry and Draymond Green in the Warriors system. They actually, I forgot this anecdote. They ended the season 15-5, and that was that stretch I was talking about where Steph was playing like MVP caliber. It was with Juan Toscano Anderson starting in place of Kelly Oubre. And basically it's just like, well, Juan understands the entire point of the offense is to pass it to Steph. We're just going to keep passing the ball in circles until he gets open. And that tends to work for us. That's the entire thing. And so for them to go and draft two 18-year-olds who the upside's the upside, but like they clearly were very raw and had not played a lot, seemed like a mistake on draft night.
The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast, presented always by our friends at DraftKings Sportsbook, where DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA Finals Game 7 is on Sunday. If you're a first timer with DraftKings, use code RTRS. You bet $5, you get $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Pacers 7.5 point dogs plus 230 on the money line. Now, you could also do all sorts of other stuff. You could do who you think is going to be Finals MVP. Now, SGA is minus 205. Siakam is plus 370. I kind of like Halliburton at plus 1,100. Now, I know he hasn't had an amazing series, but if he has an amazing Game 7, he's going to win Finals MVP.
I agree.
That feels like a good bet. And TJ McConnell is plus 9,000. Now, it's not off the table.
No, especially like if Halliburton gets hurt and TJ comes in and plays 35 minutes and does his thing.
Oh my God.
He probably wouldn't. I mean, like Siakam would have to have like a pretty rough game. But so it's hard to imagine of Halliburton getting hurt and Siakam playing badly and TJ taking over and them winning. But for plus 9,000,
it's worth the bet. Imagine us having Andre Iguodala win a Finals MVP and TJ McConnell win a Finals MVP.
Yeah, two Sixers, 2 Arizona Wildcats. Let's do it.
Again, if it's your first time, look, do a same game parlay, whatever it is. Then once the finals are over, you can bet everything you want. You do it at DraftKings Sportsbook. But right now, bet $5, get $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Don't miss your last chance to bet on the NBA this season. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use code RTRS. That is RTRS. You get $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins when you bet 5. Only in DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Got to be 21. See show notes for details. Back to the show.
Yeah, so because people now, and Spike was alluding to this, but people now say like, oh, the 2 timelines thing, like it just can't work. It doesn't work. You can't do it. But it's just that they picked the wrong players. Like if you take, if you don't like LaMelo, but like Maxey or Halliburton, and then in the next draft take Franz Wagner and Trey Murphy, I think that people are singing a different tune. Or do you think Steve Kerr specifically and those, or like the Steph environment, because of how heliocentric it is in a very specific Steph way? Do you think that doesn't lend itself towards any young player like that developing to be good enough to lead the next timeline?
No, I think you're right. I think it's as simple as it's not that it can't work. It's that they took the wrong guys.
Yeah.
They loved Tyrese Halliburton in pre-draft, and he loves to talk about how he had the best workout for the Warriors, and Steve Kerr was so congratulatory and like positive towards him. And they've come out publicly and said, in retrospect, we should have traded down and taken him. And great, cool. Everyone said that about every time they've screwed up in a draft, right?
Sure. Yeah.
But the point stands, which is if you get players who actually fit the style of play that you have and who are willing to accept being a role player, that's the other issue the Warriors ran into. Like, I haven't really dug into the draft, but that's what would scare me about someone like Ace Bailey on the Sixers. Like, Kuminga really just wants to shoot the ball every time. Mm-hmm. He thinks he's better than he was teammates on the G League Ignite with like Jalen Green. And like, from his perspective, he's like, I'm a better scorer than him. He gets to go out there and shoot it 20 times. And I'm being asked to defend and stand in the corner. James Wiseman was the same way. They wanted him to play, ironically, like Nerlens Noel, like just focus on defense and rebounding. And, you'll score in the flow of the offense. We don't need you posting up every play. But he wasn't wired that way. He was like one of these young guys who thinks, he can average 30 points and he wanted to shoot every possession. So I think that's a big part of it. It's like drafting a guy who fits and who also is willing to accept, the show's not run around them year one. theoretically in Philly, Embiid comes back, he's going to be the primary option. If you bring a young guy in, they have to be comfortable playing off of him, not just like give me the ball and let me do my thing.
By the way, that is the really complicated thing about the Sixers. We talked about it briefly on the radio yesterday. Was like, even if let's say the Sixers do believe that Ace Bailey has the highest upside and even has a reasonable chance of hitting that upside. Like, you still have Joel Embiid and Paul George, and if they're both healthy, you're still trying to win next year. And that means that guy's barely getting any minutes. So like, you also have to do the calculus of what are the odds that this person hits their upside within this context, right? Like there's two different things. There's like what their upside is and the odds that they hit the upside within the context of the team that they have to play in. So like that, I think that makes it, there's just a bunch of math problems with all of this that you don't really know. Like it's like algebra, but you have too many letters and not enough numbers to figure out the answer to the algebra.
Well,
question.
It's also that like you really need the coaching staff to be on board with that, right? Like if Daryl thinks Ace Bailey is the guy and we just got to be like, let's play him 25 minutes a game next year, no matter what. And Nick Nurse is like, fuck that, I'm not going to do it. And then that creates friction and it won't work out. I mean, like you saw some of that with Markelle.
Yeah.
Of like, we got to give Markelle minutes. He has to play. And it's like, but he's clearly like warped. Something went wrong. And then you bench JJ Redick for him. And you're like, are we trying to win or are we trying to give this kid like a Make-A-Wish situation? Like, it's just, it is obviously Markelle was a specific and very sad situation, but like it all works together. And so I think fit is good. I think fit is important. I think situation is important. And also just like coaching staff buy-in of like, which direction are we trying to go in at 3? Like if you drafted Ace at 12, then you can go like, all right, like you'll play 10 minutes a game, whatever, you'll work in, maybe you'll go to the G League for a little bit. And then you come in and you're like, oh, actually you improved a lot. And now we are starting to like, we do think you're an important player. But if you draft him at 3, you're almost telling Joel and Paul George to like, fuck off.
Yeah, tied to that, it actually reminds me. So the Warriors ironically won the title in 2022.
Yeah.
And they won the title with Kuminga, Moody, and Wiseman not playing. I mean, they got like, garbage time swan songs in the playoffs here and there, but they did not play in any of the games that mattered. The following year, they let go of a couple of the key veterans on the bench. And the goal was, we're going to give these guys opportunity. We know we have a title team now, and we're going to replace Otto Porter with Jonathan Kuminga, and we're going to replace like Dario Saric with James Wiseman as our backup center, and all these sort of things that were meant to let's see if we can bring them along slowly and get something out of the investment we made in them. And the Warriors started 3-8, and it was the classic. Starters are, plus 20 net rating and backups are minus 21 net rating. Yeah. And so it was very much, when you put Steph, Clay, Draymond, Jordan Poole, whatever combination out there, they were fine. And then when you put the young guys out there, they just bled away to the point where Steve Kerr had to essentially be like, I'm taking them out of the rotation. We're going to keep losing if I have to keep playing these guys. So it gets to your exact point, which is like, you can't, coaches aren't going to do that if the guy is just an absolute negative in a winning environment.
Well, also, and not to just put it like on the coach, you could say, okay, Daryl says, I want, Ace Bailey to play 25 minutes a game, but also he's not telling Nick Nurse, it's okay if you win 9 less games than you would if you didn't play Ace Bailey, right? Like there's that decision of, do you want to win as many games as you can? Do you not want to, or do you want to split the difference? And splitting the difference I think is tough. It just becomes really hard.
Yeah. What you need is like a young player who you go, he's good enough to play. He's going to make mistakes. He's going to have to work through some things, but like, we know he's going to be giving like positive value for the team. Like if the Warriors had drafted Halliburton, I imagine that's what it would have been like, where you're like, he's not perfect. He's, especially as a rookie, like he's going to get beat defensively. He's going to make some poor rotation decisions and stuff, but offensively he's going to help so much that like you can see the vision if that came to be, and you work through some of that mistakes. Where it's Moody, Kuminga, Weissman at that time, it's like, it's just not worth it. It's just not worth doing. They're not providing nearly enough value in any way, even with the mistakes.
And you end up with the locker room politics issue where it's not about disliking the young guys. It's that the veterans know what's going on the floor.
Yeah.
Steph knows that he doesn't know where to be defensively on any play. You know, I went to one of the games that year and I was pretty close to the court. And the thing that stood out to me was Steph spent the entire time yelling at Kuminga where to rotate on every play. Like he had no clue what to do without being directed at any time, which is not atypical, but it was kind of one of those examples that was like, you know, zeroed in my head that like, oh, wow, it's much rawer than I even thought, you know?
Yeah.
And you'd have the same thing with the Sixers if you put a guy who was incredibly raw and didn't know how to play winning basketball. Like Joel Embiid's a winning player. If he's out there and healthy in general, they walk into 50 wins. Yeah. Paul George knows how to play basketball. Like Maxey knows how to play basketball. They're going to know who the weak link on the court is. You know, they're not going to be confused by which one of them is consistently screwing up the defense.
Yeah. And this is the tricky spot with the Sixers is that unlike the Warriors who have several legs to stand on, several trophies to stand on of like, we're playing winning basketball. The Sixers can't go, oh, I wonder what Joel and Paul George are going to think about this young guy. And it's like, well, we won 25 games last year and they've never beaten a good team in the playoffs. So that is where this exercise that we are engaged in, where you try to bestow some wisdom upon us, is foolhardy. Yes. But during that championship season for the Warriors, the last one, they beat Jokic in 5. They beat the Grizzlies in 6. They beat Luka in 5. And then they face the Celtics in the finals and they win in 6 games. Were you believing in it as it happened, or was it on some level, even though you did believe in Steph, was it still a little hard to trust that they are not too old to stay healthy for a full postseason after what happened the previous years? I
mean, Steph missed the final 15 games of the season with an injury, and he came off the bench in the first round. So entering the playoffs, I didn't know what to think because, like, as you see, if Steph's on the court, none of it works. Yeah. And I think it's true for any team with their best player. Maybe you can buy a game or two here or there. So I wasn't sure. By the time they got to the conference finals, I was fully believing because he was clearly healthy. Whatever, like, residual injury impact you thought he might have had with what was like the latest like ankle tweak, clearly not an issue. Clearly he was fine. And then, you know, Jordan Poole, that was the best basketball he played. So he was able to it allowed them to slow play Steph in the first round. It allowed them to literally bring him off the bench for the first couple games playing 25 minutes. So yeah, I was all in believing once it was clear Steph was healthy. But then the second aspect to it is they got kind of an easy path too. Like, let's be honest. It wasn't, when you look back at it, it's like the Nuggets didn't have Murray or Porter because of injury. Mm-hmm. So like Jokic was amazing, but it was like Jokic and a skeleton crew. Mm-hmm. I never really believed in the Grizzlies. Proven correct over time on that one. Mm-hmm. And then like, yeah, Luka's great, but that Dallas team was nothing special. And at that point, once the Warriors got rolling, at that point, that's where I was like, I think they have it in them.
The Sixers.
It helps that they've done it before. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, the Sixers have been gifted all sorts of paths of varying levels of ease, and it has not actually mattered at all, has it? Yeah. I mean, even while it was happening, you said you believed, and this is the crux of it for me. Of like, did you ever feel like a fucking idiot? Like, were you ever like, there's no way this happens again? I guess the fact that you've won it before, because I'm right now being like, well, if Embiid, it's a lot of ifs, and I'm like, well, so maybe, and the East is open, whatever. And then I like sort of look in the mirror and I'm like, you fucking idiot. Like, did you ever do any of that?
I mean, I think the Warriors can win next year. Like, honestly, like Steph has reached that level of, I just put all logic about aging aside.
Yeah.
From my perspective, they would have gotten to the conference finals if he didn't pull his hammy against the Wolves. Like, I think they beat the Wolves. So, and, you know, to someone who's not ingratiated and, you know, stuck in Warriors land like me, you can look at this and be like, he's going to be 38 next year. He's 6'2". he's only going to get more injured if they keep asking him to play like he's 28. But that's how it goes. You win as much as they've won. You have kind of an irrational belief that if they put the right mix around him, they'll be fine.
Yeah, your delusions have been proven right, whereas ours have just sort of punched us in the face over and over.
Yeah. Before we let you go, like your Jared McCain victory lap that you should take, what did you see in him and what do you see in him? And he has moved on to the only Sixer that I consider untradeable, because I've said on multiple occasions, I believe he could be a top 12 player at some time. But like, what was it about McCain that you liked so much? And what we've seen the clips, the Steph stuff, but like you calling him the first true Steph disciple, like what did you mean by that?
Well, he is from Northern California. So like I was able to see him before he was in college a little bit, and he was at the Steph Curry camps, and it's the focus on the off ball stuff. It's the focus on shooting. Like, shocker. Steph makes me believe shooting is the most important skill in basketball. And when I see McCain, I see a player who's just maniacally is focused on those same things. So it's like leveraging his shot to make up for the fact that he's like a fine athlete, but he's not a particularly impressive athlete for an NBA caliber. And he's clearly a smart kid. He's clearly a smart player too. So watching the way he operates, the way he understands that the way he can manipulate the game is by being the best shooter on the floor and reacting to the way the defense plays that. All of that feels very Steph Curry-esque. I would say most young players actually play more like James Harden. Like, they're all trying to go one-on-one, operate out of pick and roll. And so for him, and he does that too. I mean, I'm not saying he doesn't, but like, just, you don't see 19 or 20-year-old guards wanting to like learn how to come off ball and come off of a screen and relocate and do the specific things that like Steph's probably most famous for, right? So it's the shooting. That's what made me believe that he'd be good. I might have been trolling a little when I said I think he'd be better than Maxey. That was more like, I want to believe this is a thing, but I felt very confident he was going to be a good player. Like, I love the pick where I was like, there's no chance this guy isn't at least a good starter in the NBA.
Wow.
I think the thing that was so stunning is just what you said. When we saw him doing that stuff, you just don't see a lot of players playing the way that he plays, I guess, especially at his age, you know. Light Years is the, as far as we know, the only Warriors podcast. So if anyone wants to listen, they can go check out. Anything else to plug, Sam, before you go?
No, I mean, if you want to listen to Andy Meltdown, I'm sure the Warriors are going to disappoint in free agency in about 10 days. So it should be some lessons there. Other than that, no, I appreciate you guys. Curious to see what the Sixers do, because it seems to me, I think you guys are dead on. It seems like Morey's trying to drum up value for a pick that might not be there.
Yeah.
Which was kind of the Cardinals and the Warriors ran into. Like, they just, we can't trade the number 2 pick unless we get a star, but no one's giving them a star for a number 2 in a COVID draft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they kept doubling and tripling down.
Can't make that mistake, but we will see you in the finals this year. Obviously.
Yeah, we'll see you in the finals.
See you there.
Yeah. All right, Sam.
Appreciate you guys.
Thank you, man. Mike, before we go,
should we talk about the finals for a sec?
Yeah. So I want to play something for you for a second. So at the time of this recording, the series is 3-3. And once again, TJ McConnell has swung a fucking finals game.
Yeah. Several times this series, you've been like, well, Halliburton's probably hurt, so that's probably it.
First of all, he's fine. So I think there's a little bit of gamesmanship going on there that I fell for.
Sure.
And the clip of TJ's dad on post game is absolutely amazing. If you haven't seen it before, they asked him how he thought TJ played, and he was like, "I was upset when he missed those 2 foul shots," which was a real coach. But we've mentioned a couple of times, and I think I specifically have mentioned that when Daryl Morey was on the podcast when he was with the Rockets during the bubble, that I believe that he intimated that he didn't think TJ McConnell was a very good player.
Yeah.
And I want to be clear that we have never when I've said that I don't think Daryl likes TJ, it is only from this clip. He has never said anything to me otherwise. And I also want to be clear that the Sixers let go of TJ McConnell before Daryl Morey ever got here.
Yeah.
But I just want to play the clip, and I want you to watch it, and I want us to decide if what he is saying or what he is intimating is what I remember, if that's the same. So the context here is we were talking about Robert Covington with Daryl, who once had Robert Covington with the Rio Grande Vipers, and the Sixers getting him. But here it is.
I think he was the only survivor of the Sam Hinkie FU 4-year non-guaranteed contract. Like he,
yeah.
Like, because I think they signed
TJ got you a little bit.
TJ McConnell also, I think, had the same deal.
Okay, yeah. So Robert was the only survivor of the 4-year.
Yeah. Oh, don't you? We're a pro TJ pod too. Yeah. He's saying he doesn't think TJ is good there, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Just want to be clear. All right.
First of all, embarrassing. Anytime you're making me watch multiple videos of myself on this podcast.
Well, I didn't know about the other one. I didn't know TJ was going to play
that's on
you
CJ,
acting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Look at my old apartment. Bad, too much wood on the walls there. That is very, very clearly him intimating that like TJ doesn't matter and Covington does. And
yes. Okay. Like, I just wanted to be clear.
TJ's had a way better career than Covington.
He has.
And I think this is the kind of like, look, Daryl has his types and Daryl can be right about plenty of guys or whatever, but like,
by the way, a lot of teams are wrong about TJ. He got a 2-year, $6 million deal from the Pacers.
For sure. And ultimately, he's a role player no matter what. We're not talking about a guy that should make all-star teams or whatever. But like the kind of, I think it is emblematic of the kind of guy that Daryl overlooks, or the kind of skills or team-wide effort level that Daryl overlooks. And it's like, this finals to me, on top of the Knicks series from last year, like really just makes it so that I'm watching. I'm like, you just can't have guys on your team with low motors. You need to have guys who play hard as fucking hell. Like you need it, and like get to 50-50 balls, get to offensive rebounds, make quick decisions. All of that is involved. Like move off ball. All of that, cut hard, that kind of thing. All of that is encompassed in motor, and you can't isolate it or whatever. You're just like, you're not going to just they're not going to take a Duthiero third overall because he like plays hard as shit. But it is sort of a thing that Daryl a little bit neglects. It's like the first thing to go when you're like, oh, well, what's the most important thing? I guess that doesn't matter as much. And it's like, you just watch how many extra possessions, how backbreaking those Josh Hart, Isaiah Hartenstein offensive rebounds were against the Sixers. And it's like, not that TJ doing the same thing, but I think it's the same kind of thing. And TJ's had a 10-year career and he's fucking doing it in the finals. And that's awesome.
Now,
that's unbelievable.
Now, Daryl has been a PJ Tucker guy and a Patrick Beverley guy. I do agree with you largely but he hasn't been completely void of those players.
No, that's totally fair. Totally fair.
So it's 3-3. What do you think? I think OKC, hold on, at DraftKings Sportsbook, OKC, I believe is 7.5 point favorite now.
Wow.
What do you think?
7.5.
Well, they were like 10 early in the series.
I know, but you would think that after on a game 7, 3-3, that you're going to go like, all right, let's at least get it to like 4.5 or 5.5. Like, well, 7.5 is steep.
Now, I think they're playing a dangerous game if that's what they were doing. But there is sort of the thing that sometimes when a favorite has game 7 at home, game 6, they can sometimes no-show because they
did no-show.
And I think they're playing a dangerous game with this fucking team, actually.
Yeah, I don't think that Oklahoma City was like, we can lose this one. I don't think that that's...
But there's a mental thing that happens where you're not dialed in the same way.
One team is back against the wall and the other one wasn't. I mean, it's just, this series kicks ass. I love it. I'm loving how hard both teams are playing and how much like they're just killing themselves out there. It is really fun to watch. I mean, the Pacers play such a fun brand of basketball. Thunder play a very fun brand of basketball. Like guys are contributing from all over the place. It's hard for me to not pick the Thunder, but
yeah,
I do think that the Pacers look less rattled.
They don't look rattled at all.
Yes. Well, I don't think the Thunder are looking like, they still won 3 games in the series. I don't think they're looking like, they're shying away from the moment or whatever like sort of narrative bullshit. But like, I do think the Pacers just they play with a sort of calm and confidence, even as they're playing at a very fast pace. And a guy like Siakam, who we've kind of overlooked, I think at times, or been like poo-pooed him, whatever. But like, he's been on 2 finals teams, been very important on 2 finals teams. He was like for a while compared to like, all right, he's just like a little bit better than Tobias or whatever. And he's just a really good player and really helpful and can get his shot off, even though he's not like crazy athletic. He can do some, like, I can take 8 dribbles or whatever in the guts of a game and find a way to like snake my way in there for a layup or like a nice little fadeaway over them because I'm long enough. Like, they're just a fucking fun ass team, man. I love this finals. I'm loving watching some good basketball. I'm like corny for how happy I am for this. It's just really, I'm delighted. But I'll pick the Thunder to take out at home.
It's hard to pick the Pacers. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think
I might bet the Pacers for that spread.
Well, sure, but like I think it's sort of the scenario which I don't think anybody would be surprised if the Pacers won, and it's also hard to say I specifically believe the Pacers will win this Game 7 on the road against the team that was the best team in the league all year. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they won. I hope they win. It would be. I just
look at all these fucking players on these teams and go like, you guys made it. Like you did. Like every level of, were they drafted too high? Oh, do they have that? Like, are they good enough to be like the best player in a championship team or whatever? It's like they're in the finals, and the players that are contributing right now. It's happening. They're doing it. There's nobody like whoever wins this series, and even whoever like if the Pacers lose the series, I'm not going to be like, I will think nothing bad about them. Obviously, like there's no, it was a bad year, it was weak, or like, do we really believe it, or do we buy it, or whatever. It's like they're doing it. This is the final. They are proving it right now to take the finals to Game 7. Both of these teams. It's. I think it boils down to like that. That really carries over to what I'm looking for in the draft. Of like, if you can get guys that can play in this fucking finals, and if you feel like they can't, then don't draft them. Then like simply go like, you know what? Even though I think, who's an example? I'm trying to think of the draft. Even if I think like Yegor Demon is really talented, like that's a big point guardy passer, and like there's something special about him. Blah blah blah. If you watch his game and you go like, he couldn't play in these fucking finals. He couldn't do it. He is not fast and athletic enough and high motor enough to play. I'm not taking him. You don't have to take him.
Do you know what's funny?
Sixers will, but like that kind of thing, you just go like, it has to be. You're not at that level. He's not going to play major minutes in a finals, because this kind of finals, at least, who knows if things change. But like they're too intense. It's too intense for him. He's not athletic enough. He's not big and strong enough.
Well, the sad part is you ask that very question about the best player on the team, and it's a hard question to answer. Yes.
About the Sixers?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Joel, yes. That's totally fair.
It is what it is. You hope something changes, but like that's the.
I mean, to make the case, I don't disagree with you, but to make the case, the opposite case would be like, Joel is so good and so singular when he's healthy. Obviously, when he's playing at the level we know he's capable at. He changed the geometry of the game so much that the game bends to his will a little bit more. Like, obviously, they wouldn't be flying up and down the court if Joel is doing his thing.
Yeah.
But I do think that if you're assembling a team around Joel, which the Sixers aren't anymore, but if you're trying to assemble a team where Joel is a big part of it, you have to factor into like, okay, the other guys, and this is where they probably made the Paul George mistake. The other guys really need to
make up for it.
They have to make up for that lack of like, he can't move like that for 48 minutes. So the other guys really have to. We really have to have a deep team of guys who play hard as fucking hell. And that would make me look up and down the roster and go like, okay, who do we not think can do this? And let's get them out of here.
Get them off of the team. All right. Well, we will talk to you Wednesday night after round 1.
What do you think happens?
I think they stay at 3 and take Edgecombe.
You think they stay at 3 and take Edgecombe?
What do you think?
I think they I would love if they traded up and took Harper. That would change a lot of things, but that would be really interesting. I would be also. I would say I don't think they stay at 3. I think they're moving.
Okay.
I think they're moving
back.
I think they probably move back 1 to 4 spots.
Okay.
And take Trey Johnson or Con Knippel.
Okay. Well, we will talk to you Wednesday night. Are you down with TTP?
Then I won't fuck with you.
Yeah, like this. I love the draft. Here we go. Let's do it. Don't fuck me. Don't fuck me here, Daryl. Don't you fuck me here, Daryl.
If you don't fuck with me, then I won't fuck with you.
If you don't fuck with me,
then I won't fuck with you.
But if you fuck with me,
I'm gonna fucking kill you!
That's a plan B.